You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
It's Wednesdays with Keegs and Keegan. We talked to Dylan Cease on Monday. Or was that? No, we talked to him on Tuesday. And the takeaways, he's got two cats. They're Mancoons. They weigh 20 pounds, so they're like small dogs. And the man comes alive when you talk about oysters. He loves East Coast Canadian oysters.
I mean, he has me at East Coast Canada. That's a good start. I've pretended to like oysters once or twice in my life. It's been a lie. Are you an oysters guy?
Yes, I love them.
Ooh, for me, they qualify under that realm of food that I don't even believe people like. You know, I struggle with it.
No,
but he's an interesting
delicious
cat, man. We were talking to him a little bit down in Orlando, but we also talked to John Schneider and some people around the team about him, and they would all just list stuff off. They'd be like, man, this Dylan Cease guy, I mean, he's a beekeeper, he paints, he does this. Interesting dude, you know. It's kind of up that Kevin Gausman alley, you know. This is not the Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett alley of intense guy who's going to tell me to F off day one of spring training, you know. This is a more up the chill Kevin Gausman alleyway, and I like it, man. I think he's going to be a fan favorite real quick.
Yeah, I dove into that. I saw that he and Gosman had talked for an hour and a half, and he says, yeah, they did. And I said, I get the sense that your vibes match. And he says, yeah, it was a great conversation. And that kind of, I think he talked to him before he signed.
I think so. And Gosman and his whole family really have been such great marketers, I think, for this organization. You can say the same about Chris Bassett and his family as well, but Gausman, I think, is the ultimate example of what Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro want a signing to go like, you know? Not just on the field, where he's been really damn good and started big postseason games, but Gausman has completely wiped away any of that noise about do players want to come to Canada, blah, blah, which is old and lazy and boring and only exists because U.S. media members get a little lazy with narratives. But Gausman is the ultimate example of a player embracing a city, living in a city, you know, not just flying in and out. So to call Gausman, he's probably going to get you over the finish line if you're not already there. If $210 million doesn't already put you there, which it probably does. But, man, that's going to be an interesting duo this year. And Gausman's in his last year. We'll see if there's more beyond that. I would love to see more Kevin Gausman in Toronto. But similar vibe, similar hair.
Yep.
We'll see if they both get the mustache going at the same time, but it's going to be an interesting clubhouse.
On the Bo Bichette front, I saw an interview with Buck Martinez, and he said he hasn't spoken to him, but he said 8 out of 10 he's coming back to Toronto. He sees him landing at second base in the long term, finishing his career in Toronto. And the other news is apparently the Atlanta Braves have entered the mix for Bo Bichette.
The Braves feel like a good team to keep in mind there, you know, along with Boston, which is probably a worst-case scenario if you're a Blue Jays fan. Boston, especially if they don't land Bregman, if it turns into something where they really need to scramble and get a big bat, that's dangerous if Bo lands in the division. Because free agency, Dan, I think, has made a lot of people talk about his defense. And I get that. Because free agency, you're trying to poke holes in guys. You're trying to figure out why they should get 200 instead of 300 million. It's how the game works. But in Toronto, we know his defense isn't great. In this market, we know that he's not going to steal 30 bags or win a Gold Glove. That's fine. That's cool. Because in Toronto and in the Canadian market, you know just how good his offensive upside is. So I think we come at it from different angles than maybe the rest of the league. And 8 out of 10, I like it. Buck's maybe a little more optimistic than me, but I've always got to agree with Buck because he's my guy. But coming back as a second baseman makes a lot of sense. Having Bo at shortstop with Andres Jimenez at second does not make sense. It's just they're a better baseball team with Bo at second, and I think everybody has to and would recognize that. This is not an era where getting moved to second base is a demotion, especially with the shift band. Like, you've both got to cover a lot of ground. Okay, Jimenez is not going to be over on your side of the bag scooping up balls in front of you. It's a meaningful position. So fascinated to see where this goes the next couple of weeks, Dan. Bo, I always thought would be a bit of a slower one in this market because, like we've talked about over the last few weeks, different teams are going to see different things. Some teams might look at him, and speaking of Alex Bregman, Dan, they might want to give him that type of contract. Just a few years with a couple of opt-outs. Let's see how he ages towards 30, while other teams will be a little more willing to go that 7 or 8 years. And then it comes down to Bo. Do you want to take that risk? Do you want to really bet on yourself for 1 or 2 more years? Or do you want to say, listen, let's cash in right now. I get my career money right now, and I play it out. It's a big decision. This is a big time for an agent as well to come in because I think he's going to have both options.
With Bichette, is it a different kind of beast because of the knee injury? Will teams say, okay, we want to actually see you work out?
The knee and then the calf injury that kind of bugged him a year ago, there'll be factors, especially because Bo is not getting any faster on the bases. You know, he was already an average base runner, but last year his speed went down, which is not good because you're getting into the area where he could be a bit of a liability on the bases. And in my world, Dan, you're either a great base runner, a bad one, and then I view the middle as a bit of a blob, where you can coach a guy to be a bit better if you're in that average middle. But if Bichette doesn't have even average speed, that's kind of tough. You're not in Alejandro Kirk territory yet, but you're way closer than you should be as a middle infielder. So I think that's maybe more of a factor than the injuries piling up, as long as there's nothing structural or degenerative in there, and I don't think there is. He should be fine when it comes to that. But I think teams are going to really look at that athleticism. And it's going to take a team, Dan, who is going to believe, and I really believe this, that Bo can grow into more of a power hitter if he wants to. Like, I think Bo Bichette can be whatever hitter he wants to be. I think he could go out next year and hit 38 homers. He might only hit 270, but I think he can choose to do that. He's that adaptable and that naturally talented, but he's, of course, at his best when he's hitting 310 and slicing doubles all over the field. So we'll see. Man, this is an identity conversation as much as anything, and he's still the most interesting free agent on this market for me because it's all over the place.
One of the names you brought up earlier, Alex Bregman, he has entered the mix as people speculate if the Jays don't land Bichette, then they'll go all in on Bregman.
Now, Bregman's an interesting one coming in as a third baseman. Just looking up, only 31. I consider Bregman to be older, Dan. I think just because he's been around for so long. And
I thought he was older than 31. Just like
exactly.
I thought Alejandro Kirk was 38.
Yeah. And Bregman, when you have that young success in Houston, for some reason, when a guy wins a World Series as a key player, I automatically assume they were 28 when it happened. But Bregman has so much baseball in front of him. And when you talk about guys who are clubhouse leaders around baseball, Bregman's name is brought up routinely and was last year in Boston as one of the very best. He is a rock-solid baseball player. A little more power you get there. You get him at third base. That situation would do what? Let me think through it. It would mean more Addison Barger in the outfield, where they could definitely use him. It would mean Ernie Clement much more heavily at second base, where he's great. I think he could win a Gold Glove if you give him one position for the year. That would absolutely work. I think the third base market isn't super deep, but if it's Bregman or someone like that, it makes sense for the Blue Jays. That third base corner outfield, which can overlap like we see with Barger, that makes a lot of sense for Toronto. They need a big bat, and I know that I get more questions about, are they going to sign both Bo and Tucker? I mean, there's 29 other teams. You know, they're all, I shouldn't say they're all trying. Some of them are trying. But I think it's important to be prepared for a situation where they get neither. And I don't mean that as something like, don't aggregate me, please. But there's lots of situations that this can play out where the Blue Jays go a different route. We didn't see them going for Andres Jimenez. The Bellinger route is another one, exactly. But last offseason, Dan, we didn't see them going for Andres Jimenez. I mean, the Blue Jays rarely do what we expect them to do. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I've been covering the team long enough, and I've written enough stories where I'm sitting there thinking, who the hell is this guy? What did they just do? Like I did with Jimenez last year. So I'm always ready for them to kind of zig when you think they're going to zag. And there are options. There's options out there if they don't do Bo or Tucker, even though everybody would be very, very angry.
Is there any updates on Tucker at all?
Tucker's been slow as well. I thought Tucker would be quicker than Bichette, Dan. I thought he would move quicker in the market, maybe even at the winter meetings. but sounds like he's going to still be meeting with teams. Now, he visited the Blue Jays complex a couple of weeks ago. It's a very short drive, 20, 30 minutes from his house, so it's news, not a major deal maybe, but he's still going to be meeting with teams. And the Tucker market, kind of like Bo's, I'm curious if he is going to end up with that 400+ million. I don't know at this point, because teams, Dan, like the Yankees, are not talking like big-time teams right now. And the Dodgers, yeah, they can get involved, but if the Dodgers went for Tucker, it would be more of a, here's 2 or 3 years with a crazy average annual value, but not a 10-year deal. So some of the big players in Major League Baseball are out on Kyle Tucker, or at least further away from him than I thought they would be. And that leaves the Blue Jays as the easy team to call a front runner, even though there's no such thing as a front runner, but they've got to be in there, man. And I expect this to be a late December, early January thing. This won't stretch. This won't be something that pushes spring training, I don't think, but clock's ticking, man. And once Tucker goes, I think the rest of the market follows it pretty quickly.
This must be very strange, you as a guy who covers the Jays, because every player is being linked to Toronto now. When before, it was a ghost town. Now even Ketel Marte, it was revealed the Blue Jays are on his, okay, you can trade me to them list, which is, we don't know what to do. We're getting all the nice things thrown our way.
It changes everything. You know, the Blue Jays used to be the last team on all of those reports. And most of these offseason reports are BS put out by BS artists. But the Blue Jays always used to be the and team at the end. Oh, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Blue Jays. And it was so obvious that it was an agent trying to just add another team, to pump it out. Look at all these interested teams. The Blue Jays were used as a placeholder. Nothing malicious or nefarious, but they were just kind of used as another team to throw on the pile. And so many times over the years, Dan, I would bring that to someone with the Blue Jays, and I'd be like, dude, no, we haven't talked to him at all. We don't like him as a player. And that, Dan, is probably the most useful way that I would use a source, so to speak. How people think that works is a lot different than reality, just because of all the BS that's put out there. But a lot of the times I'll bring something like that when it's put out there, whether it's Marte or a reliever they're linked to, and I'll bring it to someone I know with the Blue Jays and just say, hey, listen, should I waste my time on this, or is this stupid? And they'll say, no, don't waste your time. And that happened all the time back in the day. Now, the Blue Jays are being legitimately linked to people. And it's a different type of game because agents want everyone to think that their player has the Blue Jays chasing after them with all that money. And I'm trying to think of examples in other sports of these marquee franchises, but when you hear that one of them is after a player, you automatically think, oh, they must be really good, because if this team's going after them, they know what's up. The Jays are turning into that now. And you see it with the Rogers signing, getting another big arm. The Jays have made, 3 of the bigger moves of the offseason so far. There are teams out there, fan bases out there, waiting for their team to do something. The Jays have done a few really big things already, and they're not done. It's different than recent years, Dan. It's much different.
One thing that's flown under the radar is the fact that the World Baseball Classic is this year. It's in March, March 5th to the 17th. How many Jays are taking part in that?
Man, there should be a lot, I think. And the official announcements are kind of coming out right now. But you've looked down the roster. Of course, Vladdy will be there for the Dominican Republic. Alejandro Kirk catching from Mexico. But right down the roster, the Blue Jays are going to have a lot of options. Jose Berrios said last night on MLB Network he wants to pitch for Puerto Rico. We'll see where his elbow.
Freddie Freeman, I know he's not a Blue Jay, but on Team Canada.
There we go. Canada's going to be fun, man. I've got to say, maybe this isn't the year they make a run, but I think this is the year they make a noise, and they're like a pesky, annoying team. They have a lot of young position player talent, and their pitching's at least better. It's all about trying to find pitching, but all of their position players, there's so many 23, 25-year-old guys who are athletic and can push it. I think Team Canada is about to get fun. They're not asking guys to come out of retirement and ask for a vacation from the fire department anymore. It used to be like that. Now I'm really impressed with what they're building, but the Jays are going to lose a lot of guys. to the World Baseball Classic. And it makes for a strange spring training because if you are Vladdy, if you are, I'd even use Alejandro Kirk as more of an example. That's more straining. Or a pitcher. You're kind of ramping up in late February and early March, and then you got to come down for a little bit. And then you got to ramp up again. All of this coming off of a World Series run. And I think that's really important here, Dan, is that in past WBCs, the Blue Jays have been coming off of missing the playoffs or an early exit. That's a whole extra month of the offseason. I mean, at this point, I feel like crap, and I didn't even play in the games. You know, it's just, your life goes a month longer into early November, and now you're trying to ramp up for a WBC. That is riskier. It's a big, big variable, especially if you're a pitcher. And, man, I'm betting like Pete Walker and the Blue Jays pitching people are having a million meetings about that the next few weeks because it's tricky.
But how happy is Major League Baseball? Because we talked to CJ about this. I'm like, maybe we're living in a bubble, but it seems like baseball is back. And he goes, no, that's everywhere. Like there's talk about baseball when there hasn't been talk before. Now you throw in the World Baseball Classic and it's like everything is hitting at the right time for the sport.
It's awesome, man. Baseball's hot right now. Like you look at the TV numbers, everything that was put out after the postseason, not just in Canada with the Blue Jays, but across the U.S., like baseball's hot again. You will see that start to reflect in youth baseball registration. That will be the long game of it. Like baseball's in a real golden era, I think. And you're seeing more personalities be recognizable. Like we always go back to the Mike Trout could walk down Fifth Avenue and nobody would. Okay, whatever. I think we're entering an era where baseball superstars cannot walk down the street. You know, and that's a good thing. Not quite to the NBA, like nobody's LeBron or Wemby yet, but we're getting there in baseball. And I think back to the last WBC, that big at bat, you know, Ohtani Trout, like that was one of the coolest baseball moments I've seen. And you can't script that. But I think that, like, I'm willing to bet, Dan, that the WBC this year will do massive record numbers. And in Japan, in the Dominican, and Puerto Rico, it will always do huge numbers. But I think that you'll see much more in the U.S., in Canada, and some European countries as well. You look at a lot of the growth over there, and players from, you know, who may live in the U.S., play in the U.S., but can use their passport, use their family ties to play for Great Britain, the Netherlands. It's cool, man. It's more people are talking about baseball, and it's a refreshing break from spring training. You know, God bless spring training, but the WBC is a heck of a lot more fun to watch than, you know, Jays Tigers at 1 p.m. on February 20th. So I'll welcome it, man.
Yeah, Team Canada's team in the World Baseball Classic in 10-15 years is going to be a juggernaut. And I said this to a buddy. He's like, why 10-15? Because I'm like, well, the kid's going to sign up for baseball for the first time at 9 or 10, and then we won't see him for 10-15 years.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
It's like the Raptors when they had the surge with
the Vince Carter effect.
Vince Carter getting his big surge. We've seen it in women's soccer as well in Canada. It takes a little bit. But, man, and then you know, and by then, Dan, Vladdy will have won 2 or 3 with the Dominican Republic. So he'll come back around and do his maybe, you know, age 40 WBC with Team Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what a moment.
Thanks, buddy.
You got it, Dan.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.